The winning blueprint presents.
Welcome, you are in the lab room. I'm your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me. Look, lot to get to today. It was some really good football yesterday. Some really good football. You can tell that we're coming down home stretch. Everyone can see the finish line, and it's a dead sprint. And you can tell that the intensity has picked up, and everyone has that sense of urgency. You saw it yesterday. A lot of come from behind victories, a lot of overtime games. It's starting to rev up in the National Football League, and yesterday was a joy to watch. A lot of fun. I didn't come out on the right end of a lot of games, but nonetheless, it was still some good football. There's a category that I created myself yesterday. I had an epiphany yesterday while watching the games. I came up with an idea of a category that they need to put in the NFL. I'm going to keep track of this stat myself. It's called mistakes. And I really want to get into what mistakes are, how they impact the game, how do you keep that stat. But we don't have time today. It's just too much to get to today. So we'll save it for tomorrow. I'm just going to tease you with that. In tomorrow's episode, when there's a lot of time, not a lot going on, we can talk about mistakes. Because I feel like they have such an impact on the game. And it's not the mistakes that you think. Yeah, they are mistakes, but they're not in the sense of just the word mistake. It has a deeper meaning when I use it in this way. So we'll talk about that tomorrow, though. Let's get to what transpired on Sunday, because there was a lot to get to, a lot of good games, a lot of outcomes that we didn't expect. Well, I can't speak for you. I didn't expect. But if you've been following the league all year, you didn't expect them either. I mean, a lot of things transpired. And yeah, we'll get to everything that happened over the weekend. Of course, we know what happened with the Chiefs and their situation. And so we'll get to that at the end of the program. But let's get into some football. Let's get into what occurred on Sunday. And let's get into the weekend that was and go Slate Skatin.
The weekend that was. We're slate skating, we're slate skating, we're slate skating, we're slate skating.
So the first game up on the slate for Sunday was a game that I felt good about, and I said I was going to go out on a limb, and I didn't know why. I said, don't ask me. I don't know why. Stop asking. I don't know why I decided that the Jacksonville Jaguars were all of a sudden a good team that was good enough to go on the road and win a game. After not winning for about 7 weeks, they only won twice all season long. All of a sudden now, for some reason, I think that they're a good football team, or at least a good enough football team to go on the road and beat the Bills, who aren't a good team. Two bad teams playing against each other. And I thought maybe Chad Henne was the answer. Maybe he's a guy that can give this Jacksonville Jaguars team a spark, get them going in the right direction. Maybe even convince them that they don't have an issue at the quarterback position. Man, 2 weeks ago, you could blame it on the Cavassier. Last week, you could go ahead and blame it on the vodka or on the goose. This week, go ahead and blame it on the Henne. Because Chad Henne stunk it up in this game. Now, look, the weather was not ideal for passing the football. This was not a game in which you wanted to go back and chuck it 41 times, which is what the Jaguars, incidentally enough, decided was a good idea to do. This wasn't the type of game to do that. Now, in their defense, yes, they did fall behind in this game, but they were throwing it from the start. And it wasn't a good idea to do that in these kind of conditions, but again, they don't have a good running game. So when you can't run, what else is there to do? Y'all take to the air. It was raining the whole game. It was cold. It was wet. It was muggy. It wasn't going to happen. The passing game wasn't going to be as effective as you wanted it to be. Guys were dropping the football. Guys were losing their footing. It wasn't a good game to throw the football. So, yes, you can blame it on the Henne in this game, because Chad Henne was not good in this game at all. Now, looking at this game, there were several factors and went into the Jacksonville Jaguars not winning this game. Every time you play the Buffalo Bills, I tell you the same thing. I always say this. If you're going to beat the Bills, your number one priority, stop the run. Because if you stop the run, they abandon the run, they're going to turn to Ryan Fitzpatrick. And when they do that, you're going to get opportunities to pick the football off. You're going to get opportunities to change field position. You're going to get opportunities to score points defensively. What did they do? They let Fred Jackson go for over 100. They let C.J. Spiller go for about 77 on only 14 carries or so. They were dominated is what I'm trying to say in the run game. They almost gave up 200 yards rushing in this game. They did not stop the run, and that was the one thing they had to do coming into this game. They allowed Ryan Fitzpatrick to only throw it 12 times. And when you're running as effectively as the Bills were in this game, that's what happens. He only threw it 12 times, completed 9 of them, threw 1 interception. See, that's what I'm talking about. He only had 12 attempts, and he managed to throw 1 interception. Just imagine if that was 31 attempts. You probably would have got 3. But you couldn't stop the run. He didn't have to put it in the air that many times, so you lose the football game. It's really simple. It's a simple equation when you're playing the Bills. Stop the run, make Fitzpatrick beat you, equals a win. Stop the run, plus make Fitzpatrick beat you, equals win for you. They didn't do it, so they lose. Now, I'll tell you, it was a key sequence in this game. A couple of things happened in this game. The Jaguars had an opportunity to get a touchdown. They went down the field, got in the red zone, got a nice little run by Rashad Jennings or Montrell Owens. It was Owens down to about the 2-yard line. And you get a dumb play by offensive lineman Bradfield. Comes in after the play is well over, jacks a guy up, 15-yard penalty, takes you all the way back to about the 17, 18-yard line. Next thing you know, you got to kick a field goal. It's plays like that when you're not a good football team and you're on the road that lose you football games. So instead of them possibly tying this game up at 7, they have to settle for a field goal. It's 7-3. No worries. Jacksonville gets the football back, goes down the field, gets a touchdown. They're up 10-7. Now, this is a sequence of plays that lost them the game. This was it right here. Okay, they get the touchdown. They go up 10-7. On the ensuing kickoff, they proceed to give up a 55-yard return with a personal foul tacked on the end. So basically a 70-yard return. 4 plays later, end zone, touchdown. Now they're down 14-10. Okay, down 14-10. First play on offense after the ensuing kickoff. Forced fumble by Mario Williams. He recovers it. Bills get a field goal. Now they're up 17-10. Now it's halftime. Directly after that, the Bills get that field goal. They kick it off. Jags won a play or two. It's halftime. Bills get the ball back after halftime, drive down, get another touchdown, 24-10, game's over. That was it. You knew the Jacksonville Jaguars needed to be in this game in the fourth quarter to have a shot. They weren't. Those sequence of plays ended it for them. You can't turn it over on the road. They did that in this game. They didn't stop the run. They lose to the Buffalo Bills, 34-18. Jags fall to 2-10 on the season. Meanwhile, Buffalo gets their 5th win of the season. Now they're 5-7 on the season. Jags had opportunities. They blew it. That's what bad teams do. Shame on me for thinking that the Jags all of a sudden were going to be able to go on the road. Something they haven't really been able to do all season yet. One of their wins is on the road against Indianapolis. That was family business. Shame on me for thinking they were going to be able to go on the road outside of the division and get one. Bad on my part. Shame on me. I deserve this loss. And I said on Friday, and I'd come back and probably be telling you that, yeah, I made a mistake. Yeah, I made a mistake. Okay, so the next game up on the slate is the Houston Texans traveling to the Tennessee Titans in a game that we knew was going to result in a Texans win. They haven't been playing the best football of late, especially defensively. Offensively, they're still playing as good as they were from week 1. But defensively, they've struggled over the last 2 weeks, giving up a lot of points, giving up a lot of yards. But I said, this isn't going to continue to happen every single week. They're going to run into an opponent that they're going to be able to stifle defensively and get back to their winning ways and doing it in an impressive fashion. This was the game. And I thought this was going to be it. I thought last week might have been it, but it was this week. They go to Tennessee, family business, show up, and I told you I don't really like Jake Locker as an NFL quarterback right now. He has to grow on me. There's a lot of things that he just doesn't do well. And I knew that the Texans would be able to take advantage of him because I don't think he's a really good quarterback from the pocket yet. When he gets outside, he can cause problems. But when he's in the pocket, which is where you spend 60 to 70% of your time as an NFL quarterback, you got to be able to make things happen. And right now, that's where he struggles, and that's not a good thing. You can't struggle from the one place that you're going to be more than 2/3 of the time, maybe even 3/4 of the time. You're going to be in the pocket. You can't struggle being in the pocket as a quarterback. You have to be able to make plays in the pocket, and I don't see Jake Locker as a guy that can do that quite yet. But with the Texans, the same question arose, and this is always a question. Is it going to be a quick, painless death, or are they going to cut you and watch you bleed out? Is it going to be a slow, long death, or is it going to be painless, quick, and to the point? As always with the Texans, it was a slow bleed. They cut them in the first quarter. Lester Argine catches about a 64, 54-yard touchdown pass. Touchdown. You get a punt return from Keyshawn Martin about 50-something yards. They deposit that later on for a touchdown. You get a tip pass from Jake Locker, picked off by Tim Dobbins. He takes it to the 3-yard line. Arian Foster runs that in. So just like that, offensively, defensively, special teams, all three facets contribute to 3 touchdowns for the Texans, and that was basically it. They scored 24 points on the day. I just gave you all 3. All were set up in different ways. Offensively, they went out and got it done on the first possession. Special teams set up the second touchdown with the kickoff return by Keyshawn Martin. Third touchdown was set up by the Tim Dobbins interception on a tip pass. That's what good teams do. They get it done on every phase of the game, and that's what the Texans were able to do. They scored those 3 touchdowns. By the second quarter, the score was 21-3. They just put it in cruise control mode. They cut them, watched them bleed out. You get a 24-10 victory for the Texans. And I tell you what, Jake Locker, not good in this game. 21 of 45, 309 yards passing, 3 interceptions, and a forced fumble that was recovered by the Texans. He struggled in this game. And I will say, in his defense, wasn't all his fault. A lot of drops in this game. A lot of drops by his receivers. When you have a young quarterback in there trying to get it done, you have to help him out. You cannot afford to drop passes. They had at least 7 drops in this game. At least. I might be being generous. They might have had 10 or 11. I'll just go with 7 to be on the safe side. He also had another 7 passes batted down at the line of scrimmage. That's something that I see from him a lot. Teams are reading his eyes, batting down passes when they're not getting to him. He has to do a better job of not telegraphing when he's going to throw the football and finding better lanes to throw the football. You can't have passes being deflected at the line as often as he does. And I just told you about 14 incompletions. He had 24 incompletions on the day. So that's 14 of them right there. And again, I'm being generous. Might be more like 17, 18, maybe 19 because of the drops. So, yeah, he struggled, but it wasn't all his fault. But, yes, he missed some passes as well. They have to be better. He has to be better. They don't get it done, 24-10. He really never looked comfortable in this game. He's going to have to continue to progress. He's got 4 more games this season. Hopefully he can continue to get better. He's missed a lot of this season. Let's not forget. So, really, he was supposed to get a year worth of experience this year. He's really going to get about a half of that. So, he needs to take full advantage of these last 4 games and try to better himself and get ready for next year as he goes into the 2013 season, hopefully as the start of the Tennessee Titans. They lose this game 24-10. Titans drop to 4-8 on the season. Meanwhile, the Houston Texans clinch a playoff berth. They don't clinch the division because the Indianapolis Colts won't relent. However, they clinch a playoff spot going 11-1 on the season with this victory over the Tennessee Titans. The next game up on the slate is the San Francisco 49ers traveling to St. Louis to take on the Rams. More family business. A game that was a tie earlier in the season in San Francisco. Thought that the 49ers would come out and dominate this game because they knew that this was going to be a tough matchup. But again, they played you tough at home. You needed to come out and send them a message early in this game. Hey, you're not on the same level as us. So pump your brakes. Don't show up here today at home thinking you're going to get this win. They needed to come out and really push them around. Run the football. Be effective. Give Colin Kaepernick some open targets. Set him up with some easy plays. Get him comfortable. Make some plays. Score some points. That was the most important part. Get points on the scoreboard. Whatever you do. Under Alex Smith, you say what you want. And yeah, it's not a very fancy or explosive offense, but they find ways to manufacture points, whether it's 6 field goals and a touchdown, 5 field goals and a touchdown, 4 field goals and a touchdown, 2 touchdowns and 3 field goals. Whatever the case may be, they get points. And in this game, they weren't able. It seems like in this game, there was a lot of nothing happening. I mean, you look at Colin Kaepernick's numbers. 21 of 32, 208 yards. No touchdowns, no interceptions, 9 rushes, 84 yards. That's a good, productive day. But it didn't amount to anything. It's like a lot of nothing was going on in this game. Teams were going up and down the field. They get right on the cusp of field goal range, have something go wrong, go for it on 4th down, don't get it. And it seems like this was happening all game long. They were moving the ball, drive would stall out. They were moving the ball, 4th down, they go for it, they don't get it. I mean, it just seems like a lot of nothing was happening in this game. So you get to the point in the game where the score is 10-2. And 49ers have the ball with the chance to run the clock out. Well, you're in your 4-minute offense at this point because we're basically under 4 minutes. Right around the 3:30, 3:34 mark. For some reason, Jim Harbaugh and his coaching staff thinks that it's a great idea to run triple option with his back at his own end zone. And yes, the 2 points that the Rams got was via a Colin Kaepernick intentional grounding in the end zone, which he didn't get the football back to the line of scrimmage. So he accounted for those 2 points. Then Jim Harbaugh and his coaching staff thought it was a great idea, and I don't know why, to run triple option at about the 11, maybe the 8-yard line. They pitch it out. Colin Kaepernick pitches it out to Ted Ginn Jr. Kaepernick pitches it too high. And Ted Ginn Jr. needed to do a better job of swatting the ball out of bounds. Doing something other than what he did, which was have a lack of sense of urgency of the football, being on the ground that close to your own end zone. And not trying to pick it up. He tried to pick it up. Why are you trying to pick it up? You picking it up isn't going to result in the first down. You picking it up isn't going to yield a big play for you. Either fall on the ball or knock it out of bounds. He did neither. He tried to pick it up, which was the dumbest thing he could have done in that situation. Here comes Janoris Jenkins, rolls over, snatches the football up, rolls into the end zone, 2-yard touchdown, and just like that, a game that you've had firm control over for the whole game. Now, you are 2 points away from being tied. Now, the Rams have to go for 2. They go for 2. They get the 2-point conversion, not before they get a false start that sends them back to the 7-yard line. Nonetheless, they convert. 7-yard pass to Kendricks, the tight end. It's 10-10. Colin Kaepernick rips off a 50-yard run on the next possession after having that mishap with Ted Ginn Jr. on the triple option that leads to the touchdown in the tie game. He gets the 50-yard run, puts the 49ers in field goal range. Delaney Walker drops a touchdown pass. You got to be kidding me. You can't have things like that happen. If you want to win on the road, you're a good team. Good teams don't do that. Right in his hands, he dropped the football. They settle for a field goal after the Kaepernick run that gets them inside the red zone. Got to score 7 right there. Put this game away. Either that or get a first down to ice the clock and then kick your field goal. Whatever it is, you don't give the Rams back the football and you only get a field goal with that much time left on the clock. Rams get it back with more than enough time to go down the field, to get in range of young Jeezy, and Greg Zuerlein kicks a 50-plus yard field goal to send this game into overtime. 13-all. In overtime, 49ers get an opportunity. Kaepernick takes them down the field. David Akers, who has struggled in key spots this season. He struggled. He hasn't been the David Akers of last year. And you knew he couldn't keep up with that pace he set last year. He misses the 51-yarder to send them home with the win. Rams get the football. And it looked like for a minute here that it was going to be another tie. The Rams get the ball back with less than 2 minutes to go. And they have to drive down and get a field goal. They're able to drive right around 34, 35-yard line. 36, 37, somewhere in that vicinity. It's 4th and short, probably 4th and 1, 4th and inches. They don't decide to go for it, which was the smart decision because if you don't get it, the game's probably going to be over at that point. Maybe the 49ers get 2 or 3 shots at picking up 20 or 30 yards to get in field goal range again. But With that kind of kicker, with that kind of leg, you got to attempt the field goal. That's what Jeff Fisher decided to do. And young Jeezy made it pay off again as he deposits about a 54, 55-yard field goal through the uprights. Rams get it done again, this time not resulting in a tie, but actually get the win against the 49ers, 16-13 in overtime. Good game. The 49ers let this one slip through their fingers. They have to be disappointed in not only the play calling, but some of the decision making and some of the execution of the players on the field. Nonetheless, they don't get it done. They go to 8-3-1 on the season. Meanwhile, the St. Louis Rams, who I thought were the same old St. Louis Rams, you never know which team is going to show up. And yes, this is family business, but still, they're not as good as the 49ers. And yet they've been able to play them tough twice this season, coming away with a tie and a victory. This Rams team is now 5-6-1. And there it is. Jeff Fisher is building something in St. Louis as we speak. As we continue down the slate of games as we go slate skating, the next game features the Arizona Cardinals traveling to the New York Jets, which was my sole survivor pick of the week. Wow, this game was a mess. And I told you this was going to be an ugly game, one that you probably didn't want to watch. The only thing that came of this game was the benching of Mark Sanchez. And trust me, if Tim Tebow dresses, Sanchez has to throw 10 picks to get benched. Okay, the only reason they sat him down in this game, and you can listen to Rex Ryan all you want, but the only reason they sat him down in this game was because Tim Tebow wasn't dressed. And it could go to Greg McElroy. If Tim Tebow is dressed, he's healthy, he's ready to go, they don't make the change. I feel really good about saying that, because this Jets organization doesn't get it. But this game was ugly. If the Jets are playing anyone other than the Arizona Cardinals in the National Football League, I don't care who it is, anybody but the Cardinals, they lose this football game, and it's not even close. Luckily enough for them, they were playing the Arizona Cardinals, and so you can turn it over 4 times, 5 times. It doesn't matter. As we saw earlier in the season against the Falcons, you can turn it over 6 times against this team and still win the football game because they're allergic to points. They don't like to score points. They don't like the way it feels. It makes them feel all warm and gushy inside. It makes them get hives, and they start to turn red. They don't like the way it feels when they score points. So they just don't. And they did it again in this game. They got 3 turnovers from Mark Sanchez. He's pathetic. I told you I don't like him as a quarterback. I told you I'll be the first to stand in line to bash Mark Sanchez. If you give me the opportunity, just show me where the line is. Point me in the direction. I'll be the first one in line. He's not a good quarterback. He's not even an average quarterback. He's not even a below average quarterback in this league. I don't understand why the Jets don't pull the cord on this failed experiment. It's going on long enough. Move on. People get fired when they decide to make decisions like this, and that's why I think guys are going to have to move on when this season is over because they stuck way too long with Mark Sanchez. But nonetheless, I digress. They get the job done. Greg McElroy comes in the game, goes 5 of 6 for 29 yards, the 1 touchdown in this game to the tight end Cumberland. They get it done 7-6. Not a lot to talk about here. I got the win with my sole survivor pick. I told you they were going to win because the Cardinals are pathetic. They are the worst team in the league right now, I think, because of this quarterback situation. I know it changes every week, but again, this is a fluid league. Week to week, things change. And now the Cardinals, to me, are the worst team in the National Football League because they can't score points. Their quarterback position, terrible. Ryan Lindley went 10 of 31 in this game. Ugh. Now, that puts the Cards watch. Remember, I told you we we're going to start keeping a tab on these cards. Cards watch is what we're going to call it. They've lost 8 straight now after starting the season 4-0. So they're 4-8 now after losing this game 7-6. Jets go to 5-7 on the season. This was a tough watch. Hopefully you didn't put yourself through this, but if you did, my condolences go out to you for having to watch that football game. Moving on, the next game up on the slate features the New England Patriots, who traveled to Miami for the first time this season against these Dolphins to handle some family business. These two teams have not met all season long, and Dolphins first time playing the Patriots, and this was probably the closest team to them in the division. And once upon a time, I thought these Dolphins might have had a shot at really giving the Patriots a run for their money in this division. Things fell apart. They showed their true colors, did the Dolphins, and so Patriots ran away with it. They played a solid game, did the Dolphins, against the Patriots in this matchup, but You can't make mistakes. You can't have things not go your way. And when opportunities are there, you have to take full advantage of them. First possession, the Dolphins don't do anything. Have a bad snap back to the punter. He muffs it. He bobbles it. He had plenty of time to pick it up, dust it off, blow the ball off, and then punt it. Instead, he panics, starts fumbling around with it, doesn't pick it up cleanly, fumbles it around 2 or 3 times, finally picks it up. By that time, the New England rush is coming now, and he gets tackled back at around the 12-yard line. Of course, you knew Brady was going to deposit that in for a touchdown. Just like that, it's 7-0. Couple possessions later, Ryan Tannehill misses a wide, and when I say wide open Brian Hartline. This would have probably been about a 60-yard touchdown pass. Instead, he overshoots him by about 5 yards, and those are the types of plays, if you want to win games against teams that are better than you, you have to make. You can't afford to squander opportunities to put points on the board. That was a huge miss in this game, and I tell you what, plays like that deflate your football team. They don't score on that possession. That would have been 7 points because he was wide open. There was not a Patriot defender in sight. He would have walked in the end zone. Then the Dolphins are able to kind of stabilize the game a bit. You felt like they weren't taking advantage of opportunities, and you knew sooner or later the Patriots would take advantage of some opportunities. They were able to pick Tom Brady off, his first interception in about 220 attempts. That was the longest in the National Football League. That streak is now over. They picked him off. He stepped out of bounds. It was a great return that went for a touchdown, but he had stepped out of bounds, and so they called it back. Or he didn't step out of bounds. He had a block in the back. Then they have a roughing the kicker penalty when the Patriots were about to punt the football. Gave the Patriots back the ball. They take it down and they get a touchdown. Those are the kind of penalties that are back-breaking. Those are back-breakers. You can't win in this league that way. Patriots go up 14-3, tack on another field goal after they forced a fumble from Ryan Tannehill that was recovered by Vince Wilfork. And so you want to win against good teams. You can't turn it over. You can't miss opportunities to make plays. You can't self-destruct, and that's what the Dolphins did in this game. Tannehill missed Hartline again, who was wide open. This time he underthrew him by about 2 yards. You want to win against good teams, teams that are better than you, teams that are leading your division. You want to win those games? Make plays when they're there to be made. Don't turn the football over. Don't self-destruct. Don't give up roughing the kicker penalties when they're about to kick you the football. Don't have your punter drop the ball and dribble all over himself trying to pick it up. Do the things that have won you 5 games this season, not the things that have lost you 6 and now 7 on the season. That's what they did in this game. They weren't good in terms of taking care of the football and making smart decisions and making the plays that are necessary to win. Patriots get it done 23-16 on the road against the Miami Dolphins. And this game sewed up the AFC East for the New England Patriots as they win the division, clinch it with this win against the Miami Dolphins, 23-16. Now, Patriots go to 9-3 on the season. Meanwhile, the Dolphins fall to 5-7 on the season. Tough luck loss for the Dolphins. Can't make mistakes and expect to win in this league. Sometimes you can get away with it. Most times you won't. Next up on the slate, the Carolina Panthers traveled to a heavy-hearted Kansas City Chiefs team to take on the Chiefs. And we all know by now the circumstances surrounding this Chiefs team with the tragic development of the Jovan Belcher situation that occurred on Saturday. So this team was playing with heavy hearts, and you just never know in the National Football League. You just never know, period. This isn't a National Football League issue. This isn't a sports issue. This is a people issue. This is a issue that could happen in any walk of life. And so this is something that we need to learn a lesson from. If nothing else, it's not many things that you can take from this positively, but that might be the one thing, is that you need to be more aware of what's going on around you. And not to say that the Chiefs or anyone in that organization could have foreseen this or stopped it from happening. I don't think that was the case at all, but nonetheless, always take the time out, to talk to people. That's something like Brady Quinn said. I thought he said it eloquently after the game was over, that We're in a society right now that's so impersonal. Everything that we do, we don't like to deal with people anymore. People shop online now. They want their news online. They want to talk to people via Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all these different media outlets. There's not the face-to-face interaction anymore like it used to be. And sometimes it's to a fault, as in situations like this. We don't know what happened. We don't know the circumstances surrounding this situation. All that we know is that something tragic came of it. And so the Chiefs had heavy hearts coming into this football game. And I thought that this was an excellently played football game on both sides. I thought the Panthers came up. And I thought that this was going to be a game that was going to be a snoozer, much like the Jets game was. I was wrong. I had it reversed. I thought the Jets game was going to be ugly but effective. And I thought this game was going to be the laugher, the one that at halftime didn't get any visuals. That was the Jets game. The Jets game was the one that you glossed over, told you that Mark Sanchez had 3 interceptions and just moved on. Didn't show you any pictures, just moved on. This game, however, was very entertaining, very well played. I thought defenses and offenses on both sides for both teams looked good. I thought this was a well-played game. Cam Newton looked good in this game. They played well, but on this day, it just wasn't meant to be for the Carolina Panthers. After everything that happened to the Kansas City Chiefs, you knew they were going to come out, play inspired football, and want to get this win. And so it was going to be tough for Carolina to come out and win this game. And the Chiefs came out and they played well. They played their best game of the season. Brady Quinn looked good. And this is it for Brady Quinn as far as being a starter in the National Football League. This is it. He needs to take full advantage of this opportunity that the Chiefs are giving him with these 5 remaining games. That was the first of these last 5 games that he's going to be able to start. He needs to take full advantage of it. He looked good in this game. He looked really good. He only had about 5, maybe 6 incompletions in this game for over 200 yards passing, about 2 touchdown passes, no interceptions. He was solid in this game. Really liked what I saw. He was composed in the pocket, made good decisions with the football. And as we know, for the most part, Brady Quinn is a check down artist. But I thought he went down the field well in this game, made some good, accurate throws, and knew where he wanted to go with the football and drove it down the field. And so, for the most part, I thought he was solid in this game. If he can continue to do that, maybe the Chiefs can bypass a quarterback in the draft. I don't recommend they do that, but on a team that has issues in other areas, maybe, just maybe, you are able to bypass a quarterback if the quarterback that you like isn't there. If the quarterback you like is there, you have to take him. You can't assume that Brady Quinn is going to be the answer at the quarterback position. But look, we have 5 games left, 4 now after this one was played, to figure out what you want to do in the offseason. Just thought that the Chiefs played well. Jamal Charles had a good game. Tony Moyaki had a good game. Finally seen John Baldwin. Seems like he's been missing for about 5 or 6 weeks here. He showed up, had a touchdown reception in this game. Chiefs just played an all-around good game, and they were able to get it done in the midst of a serious tragedy that occurred just one day before they played the game. They did what, as they said after the game, what football players do. You play football. What coaches do, you coach football. And they went on, played the game, and a lot of things were said after the game, but at the end of the day, you just never know what someone else has going on in their mind. You never know what someone else has going on in their life if you don't talk to them and really get through to them. You just never know what can happen. And we'll talk about it a little bit later. But the Chiefs get the win here, 27-21, get their second win of the season, go to 2-10 on the season. Meanwhile, the Carolina Panthers, after winning a week ago, aren't able to make it 2 straight for the first time this season. They drop to 3-9 on the season. Next up on the slate of games is one that had huge implications in the NFC as the Seattle Seahawks took on the Chicago Bears at Soldier Field. And not many thought that Seattle would be able to go into Chicago, including myself, and get a win. They had struggled all year on the road. Didn't see them going into an environment like Soldier Field and coming away with a victory. But the Seahawks had other ideas in this game. Now, first things first, Jay Cutler to Brandon Marshall is a lethal combination. And we already knew this from their Denver days, but wasn't sure they were going to be able to rekindle the magic that they shared in Denver. No doubt about it. Jay Cutler is looking for Brandon Marshall 50% of the time when he drops back. Don't care if he's the first read or not. 50% of the time when he drops back, much like Matthew Stafford in Detroit. And rightfully so. When you got a beast on your team, like a Megatron, like a Brandon Marshall, you got to get him the football. And these quarterbacks don't hesitate to throw them the football, whether it's single, double, or triple coverage. They feel confident that their man is either going to catch it or not allow anyone else to catch it. And that's always a good feeling to have. That's the trust factor that Jay Cutler and Brandon Marshall share. And he was feeding him the football in this game. They end up scoring a touchdown early in this ball game, jumping out to a 7-0 lead. After that, though, I felt like the Bears squandered opportunities in this game to really separate from the Seattle Seahawks. And that's what allowed the Seahawks to hang around and find a way to win this game at the end. Because the Bears wasted opportunities to separate themselves. Even if they were to get field goals on these possessions, they would have been in a better position to win this football game. Instead, they get nothing, and they allowed the Seahawks to hang around and ultimately find a way to win this game. What I'm talking about is early in the game, they forced a Marshawn Lynch fumble, and that's a rare occurrence. He doesn't fumble often. Forces a fumble of Marshawn Lynch, get the ball right around midfield, do nothing with it. They go for it on 4th down after having a long drive. They're well in Robbie Gould field goal range. They decide to go for it on 4th down. It's 4th and inches, something that they should be able to pick up. Michael Bush comes in the game, doesn't pick it up. Another opportunity wasted to get points. Then Jay Cutler scrambles out of the pocket, and he was great in this game. I'm liking what I'm seeing from Jay Cutler, but I'm telling you right now, it's not translating to points. And we'll get to this offense of the Chicago Bears in a second. But Jay Cutler scrambles out of the pocket, and he was scrambling in this game. I'm going to start giving Jay Cutler credit, more credit, because I don't think he gets enough credit for his ability to scramble. He's more athletic than I give him credit for. I didn't think he was as athletic a quarterback as he is, but he can move. He can run. He can make guys miss. He can extend plays, make things happen with his legs, and then use his arm, that cannon of an arm, to make things happen. And on this play, he scrambles out of the pocket, buys himself more time, locates Earl Bennett running free down the field, hits him in stride. Earl Bennett drops the football. And we're talking about 60 yards in the air on a rope to Earl Bennett. If he catches this ball cleanly, because he juggled it, had a chance to catch it again, dropped it, then fell down. Had he caught that ball cleanly, he may walk in the end zone. I mean, he was really wide open. Those are the type of plays that win you ball games. Those are the type of plays that you look back on and say, plays like that made us lose this game, helped us lose this game. Gotta make plays if you want to win games. Can't state that enough. You gotta make plays when they're there to be made. You don't get open often in the National Football League. You don't get open. Wide open doesn't happen often. You may get wide open 3 times in one game. And not just the same player, talking about as a team. You might have players running wide open 3 times in a game. And when I say wide open, I mean inadvertently wide open. The defense makes a mistake and a guy comes uncovered and is wide open and might be able to score. You only get that maybe 3 times in a game, maybe once in that game. Maximum 3 times in a game. You don't get guys running wide open unless you're playing a terrible defense that doesn't get it. Then you'll have guys running wide open all over the place. But a team that plays solid defense like the Seattle Seahawks, you don't get that often. And he squandered that opportunity. And I thought that's what the Bears as a team did in this game early on. And they allowed the Seattle Seahawks to hang around. Russell Wilson was phenomenal, as he's been over the last month or so in the season. As he's been really all season long for the Seattle Seahawks. But he's been playing even better of late. No turnovers in his game again. Another 2 touchdown passes. He was excellent, and when his team needed him the most, and again, that's how I gauge quarterbacks. When his team needed him the most, he rose to the occasion and played his best football of this game. Bears leading in this game 14-10. Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks are trapped at their own 3-yard line with about 5 minutes left in this game. Russell Wilson takes the football, drives his team 97 yards down the field, takes the lead with 36 seconds left on the clock as he throws a touchdown pass to Golden Tate to take the lead. They go up 17-14, and they had a fourth down conversion or two on that possession. I mean, it was some clutch football by Russell Wilson. They got it done. You're thinking the game's over at this point. Bears only have 36 seconds. They get the football. They're trapped at about their own 10-yard line. You're thinking this is it. They're done. They lost this game. Jay Cutler rolls out again, using his athleticism to buy himself more time. Guns it about 45 yards down the field to Brandon Marshall. I don't know how didn't have at least 4 defenders on him at this point in the game. They knew that Brandon Marshall had been killing them all game. He's their go-to guy. How are you not blanketing this guy at this juncture of the game? Doesn't matter. Don't let him catch the ball. That's number one. These Seahawk defenders, these secondary members, especially these DBs, very boisterous, always have something to say. This is the time you need to step up and make a play. Make a play. There's no reason for him to be catching this football and then allowed to get out of bounds. Even though they had timeouts, it wouldn't have mattered. That still allowed them to get even closer for the field goal, set it up because they didn't have to burn a timeout because he got out of bounds. Just bad execution all the way around by this Seahawks defense to allow this to happen with that little bit of time. No way the Bears should have been able to get into field goal range and get a field goal to tie this game and send it to overtime, but that's exactly what they were able to do. Center the football. Robbie Gould knocks it home. This game goes to overtime. But the Seahawks won the toss, and they did not allow the Chicago Bears to see the ball offensively again in this game as Russell Wilson takes that football, goes all the way down the field, caps it off with a touchdown pass to Sidney Rice. Seattle does what many, including myself, did not think was possible, which was go into Chicago and get a win on the road. And this was huge because a lot of teams, all those 6-5 teams that were right there with the Seattle Seahawks, they lost on Sunday. Seahawks were the only one to win, so now they're elevated to 7-5. And remember, there are a lot of 5 and 6 teams that are chomping at the bit, hoping that teams like the Seahawks, teams like the Bucks, teams like the Vikings would lose on Sunday. Seahawks did not oblige, did not partake in any of that. They won this football game, and this is a huge win. These are the type of wins that you get. And if you make the postseason, you look back on and say, that win helped us and propelled us into the postseason. These are season-defining wins on the road against a tough team like the Chicago Bears in a hostile environment like Soldier Field. You go against all odds and get it done on the road. Go to 7-5 on the season. And they're really in the driver's seat now to win that final NFC wildcard spot, are the Seattle Seahawks, with their win over the Chicago Bears in overtime. Meanwhile, this is a crushing loss for the Chicago Bears. Deflating on many levels because all they had to do was continue to win and they would have won this division. They had the inside track to controlling their own destiny in terms of winning the NFC North division. Now with this loss, Packers win, and we'll talk about the Packers here shortly. They're able to leapfrog the Bears in this division, and now the Packers have the inside track. All they have to do is win, and they will win that division. And I told you in the division standings segment that the winner of that Bears-Packers second game is going to probably win that division. And now that's even more so true because if the Packers win, that division is all but sewn up. So it's imperative that the Bears get back on a winning track, win that game at home in 2 weeks against the Packers, and keep winning ball games. They want to win this division because no one wants to go on the road in the playoffs if you don't have to. Having that first home playoff game is vital if you want to succeed in the playoffs, especially if you're one of these teams like the Bears, like the Packers, who haven't played your best football away from home. You know, it's easy to win at home. It's tough to win on the road, especially when you get into the postseason. So it'd be nice to have that first playoff game be at your place instead of having to go on the road if you're one of these two teams. So bad loss for the Bears. Not a bad loss in the sense that they lost to a bad team, but just a loss that could have been avoided if they would have made more plays in this football game. They would have won this game. So now they're 8-4 on the season, and now they're in second place in the NFC North division. You look at the next game on the slate, and this was a big one on Sunday. Again, two teams battling each other. It was a huge game for one of these two teams. The Indianapolis Colts traveled to Detroit to take on the Lions in a game that I didn't think they would be able to win because just like the Seattle Seahawks a game ago that we just spoke of, this team doesn't like to win on the road. Indianapolis Colts have struggled away from Lucas Oil Stadium this season. And I didn't think they would be able to go and tame a team like Detroit. Remember, I said in the preview for this game that the Lions have been scoring points of late. Megatron, happens to Megatron. He had been going nuts of late. And he did the same thing in this game. I said there's not a Colts defender that can tame this guy. I don't think there's two Colts defenders that can tame this guy. And that's exactly what happened. He went off in this game. But it wasn't enough. And it wasn't enough because of one man. And I told you, these 5 rookies, Russell Wilson in the last game we just talked about, Andrew Luck in this game, these 5 rookies are something special, something we've never seen in the NFL before. We've never seen rookies come onto the NFL landscape quite like this. So many of them at one time and be this good this soon and help their teams look to make the postseason. I mean, every week it seems like we're talking about another record that they're either approaching or breaking for these members of the starting 5. Andrew Luck is the real deal. Not that anyone was questioning whether he was or not, but this win right here, and again, just like I said for Seattle, these are the type of games that define your season. These are the type of wins that you look back on and say, it's wins like those that put us in the position that we're in today to give us a chance in the tournament. Because wins like this put you in the playoffs. These are the type of wins you have to get if you want to go to the postseason. And the Colts were able to do that. Let's talk about the game, though. This was a game that the Detroit Lions had every opportunity to win. The Colts came into this game, got it into an early groove, scored a touchdown early on, took the lead. We're never really able to get away from the Detroit Lions. Lions took a lead. Colts would take the lead back. And then the Lions just ran away. They ran away. Colts took the lead at 14-10. That was the last time they had the lead until they ultimately won the game at the end. Lions had leads that were significant. 2-score leads at 2 different times in the game. 9 at the half and into the third quarter at 23-14. And late in this game, we're talking less than 7 minutes, less than 6 minutes, right around the 5-minute mark. They're up 12, 33-21 in this game. And all they had to do was play smart football. And again, this speaks to the Lions just not being a good team this year. They did some of the things you can't do as a team trying to cement a win. You need to go into 4-minute offense. And 4-minute offense requires you to run the clock. And when you make mistakes, you throw the football, you get incompletions, you stop the clock. It's like a timeout. And you can't have that in a 4-minute offense. If you must run it 3 times and punt, then do so. Don't stop the clock, though. And it's okay to throw it. I'm not saying you have to limit your playbook to just running the football. But be smart in what you call high percentage passes, quick passes out of the quarterback's hand so you know that it's going to be completed. Keep the chains moving. They weren't able to do that. Now, I will say, in the Lions' defense, one of those passes was a catchable ball to Calvin Johnson that he dropped. I'm not going to beat Calvin Johnson up. He's the man. He was the reason that they were even in a position to win this game. So you won't hear me sit here and bash Calvin Johnson for a drop on the day. He's a guy that gets targeted 20, 22 times in a game. He had 13 catches in this game. He's going to make some plays. He's going to drop some passes. He's not going to catch every single throw that's in his direction. So I'm not going to beat him up for dropping that pass. However, that pass might have won them the football game if he would have been able to corral it. But nonetheless, the defense had a 12-point lead to work with. I don't want to hear anything about not being able to get it done offensively. This offense put 33 points on the board. The defense had this game. All they needed to do was get 1 stop. They had 2 possessions to get 1 stop. And they allowed Andrew Luck and the Indianapolis Colts to go down on 2 separate occasions late in this ball game and win the football game. And so you had 2 possessions to get 1 stop, and you couldn't do it. And that's been the Detroit Lions this season. Not making plays at the end of the ball game to win them the game. We saw it last week on Thanksgiving on Thursday when they weren't able to convert a field goal to win the game. Jason Hanson, who for most of his career, and even in this season has been money, wasn't able to convert a field goal to win that game on Thanksgiving. They made mistakes. They didn't win the game last week on Thursday against Houston. Do the same thing here. And that's the reason why this Lions team is 4-8 on the season. Because they don't know how to win games. Games they won last year, and they were able to eke out. Not able to do it this year, and they did it again here. Andrew Luck takes his team down the field, no timeouts, He's able to drive his team down with about 3 minutes to go, all the way down the field, put them in the end zone as time expires. I mean, these are the drives that make champions. And Andrew Luck, time after time, you thought they were going to sack him. You thought he was going to make a mistake. He had made mistakes in this game. He threw 3 interceptions in this game. He turned the football over in this game. You thought that he was going to make that mistake, but when the game is on the line, one thing you can't say about Andrew Luck is that he's not going to rise to the occasion. He took his team down the field, and this was 4th down. This was the ball game. This was no time left on the clock. This was it. This is the last play. Had to make it happen. And he makes the smart play, dumps it off to Avery. Avery takes the little drag route. No one underneath. Every line defender is in the end zone, which is inexcusable. You should be guarding the end zone, not in it, but guarding the end zone as well. Every defender didn't need to be in the end zone, but they were thinking, hey, make them throw it down short, and if they do it, we'll rally to the football and stop them from getting in the end zone. No one was close enough to stop Donnie Avery. He essentially walked in the end zone. Colts get it done 35-33 in a thriller. Colts win this one. They go to 8-4 in the season. This was a remarkable comeback by the Colts, a remarkable win by Andrew Luck, and I tell you what, this is the type of game that solidifies his mark as one of the best young quarterbacks in the National Football League. And really, this wasn't a discussion. We weren't debating whether he was or not, but in case you weren't sure, the legend of Andrew Luck continues to grow. And it's games like this that help it grow to epic proportions. The Colts get it done 35-33. They're 8-4 in the season. They're knocking on the door of a postseason appearance now. I mean, this win was huge because no one expected them to get it. And they're not even out of the discussion in the AFC South now. They keep winning, even though the Texans keep winning. They keep winning, and they have 2 meetings with these guys. So they can apply pressure to the Texans and not allow the Texans to just cruise to a division title and start resting players. They have to keep playing because they haven't even wrapped up the division yet. And they have the most wins in the AFC, do the Texans. But they can't rest because this Colts team won't allow them to. Big win for the Colts. Meanwhile, another deflating loss for the Lions. They can't get out of their own way. They got bad news in this game. Ryan Broyles, the young receiver out of Oklahoma who was starting to emerge, he tore his ACL, not the same one that he tore at Oklahoma that really saw him miss his whole senior season, but the other leg, he tore the ACL there. He's gone for the rest of the season, and he'll be having a long road to recovery now as it's the end of the season, essentially. And so he might not be ready for next season when the season starts. And then you have trouble with Titus Young, who the Lions apparently sent home today. They just need to get rid of him. He's a problem. After sabotaging the team a week ago, we didn't even really discuss that, but yeah, he was going out, purposely lining up wrong and doing things to kind of sabotage his Lions offense because he wasn't getting the football. He was frustrated. He's an idiot. He's a nutcase. Get rid of him. And really what the Lions are doing is they're building a case against him so that the NFLPA can't try to say that he was wrongfully terminated or that he should be compensated for his roster spot and all this nonsense. They're looking to build a case against him so that when they get rid of him, there will be no compensation for him at all. And they'll probably be able to recoup money, as a matter of fact, because Titus Young is a guy that they paid money to because he was an early round draft pick. So the Lions are going to look to recoup money probably from him in the long run. They're a mess right now. But that's the Detroit Lions with Jim Schwartz as your head coach. Have fun.